and welcome to Who Corner to Corner podcast. My name's Geoff, and if you've listened to us before, you'll know the drill. I'm Geoff, he's Paul. We host Who Corner to Corner podcast. If you haven't listened to us before, I'm Geoff, he's Paul, and we host Who Corner to Corner podcast. And where have you been?
Exactly.
Where have you been?
Why haven't you listened to us before?
Well,
what's wrong with you?
Really, if you haven't listened before, we're a Doctor Who podcast, and we talk about Doctor Who. We review episodes, new and old, and sometimes we talk to other fans in our Meet the Whovians series. Yeah. Sometimes we talk to cast from the show. Sometimes we talk to behind the camera talent. Sometimes we talk to book authors. Talk to all sorts of people, really, don't we?
Mate, we do. When you think about it, you think about the people we've had on magazine editors. We had Darren Scott from SFX on quite recently, talking to us about his Doctor Who obsessions, which was brilliant.
Yeah. So we love Doctor Who, and
Colin Baker.
Yeah, we've had a Doctor himself. We've had Ace. We've had Swarm. As well, so all sorts of people. So
directors,
so
producers.
Check out our back catalogue of episodes if you haven't before. Yeah. And tonight, this is a new episode in what we're calling our Essential series, where we are looking at some of our favourite episodes from each Doctor. And it's nothing to do with filling airtime between now and November when when the show returns.
Nothing like that at all. No, that's too deep for us anyway. To be honest, we're not that clever.
Yeah, we don't plan that far in advance. But there will be episodes weekly from us with all sorts of different topics. So tonight we're going to look at
rain, wind or shine.
Yeah, unless
sorry, mate, I just had to add that in there.
You did.
Just, I know you'd already started speaking, but I just had to put that in just in case it was bad weather and people think we're not available. We're totally available.
What if you had no power? Or no internet.
Yeah, this is true. We'd find a way. We would do smoke signals or something.
So
restore the telegraph. Yeah. God, that'd be interminable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, God, imagine
the whole show in Morse code. I mean, we'd have to learn it first.
One thing. Who knows what we'd be saying?
Or ... dash ...
How dare
Probably
you?
got that wrong.
Yeah, sorry. So tonight we're looking at our favourite 12th Doctor episodes. So these are the ones that we feel are the essential ones for the Doctor, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they are the main ones for their story arc or anything like that. They're just ones that we particularly like and feel give a good flavour for a specific Doctor. So we've also done the 13th Doctor, and we've done the 11th Doctor, and now we've gone back up and gone to the 12th Doctor.
Because why do these things in order, Geoff? That's just boring.
Yeah.
We could have started at 1 and gone right through to 15.
Yeah, we could have
possibly,
done,
because it would probably take us that long to get through them all, to be honest.
Yeah. Maybe we could tie it in with Shooty's debut, So I'm going to hand straight over to you, Paul, to go in at number 5 with your 12th Doctor essential list.
Right. I knew you were going to do this. I just knew. And I've right, you should know by now, right, that I look at these slightly differently to you, because the essential things for me is not necessarily my favourite, right? Actually, I think these are the ones that are essential if you want to get a gist of what this Doctor's
you're
about.
Approaching them in a different way to the way I just described.
I stick to my guns, mate. That's you just do your favourites. That's fine. That's okay. That's cool.
This is the format.
I'm happy with that.
It's not.
Whose idea was the format anyway, mate?
Was it yours or was it someone on Twitter?
Yes, it was mine. Yes, and I decide what it's gonna be. All right, Governor. All right. Yeah. Anyway, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm totally cool with it. Okay, so. On that note, my number 5, if you like, because we are going to pick our 5, if you like, essentials / favourites. But the reason I say that is because number 5 is not my favourite at all. In fact, it's probably my least favourite of any Doctor Who story ever.
Really?
As you well know.
Is it Sleep No More?
It involves a moon. It involves a dragon, and it involves a whole lot of messing around between Clara and the Doctor in order for Clara to understand exactly what it is the Doctor does day in, day out. Not physically, not bumbling around, making plans and stuff like that, but the decisions that he is faced with, the choices that he has to make, and the countless millions whose fate depends on the outcome of those very choices. Consequences which he cannot foresee, to any real degree, and which have quite often bit the Doctor in the backside over time. And I think this is the only story where we really see that. We're invited into that as viewers. But of course, Peter Harness, the writer, being Peter Harness, doesn't make it easy. What he likes to do is tell an allegorical story using what did Fraser, who we had on recently, call it a MacGuffin, the MacGuffin of the moon. Yeah. Which I really, really, really don't like. And the other thing I really, really don't like is the cavalier attitude towards physics and everything else. But nonetheless, that's just my opinion.
I'm going to stop you there for a moment. This is a weird essential.
It is. No, it is. I'll tell you what, I'm getting to the point as to why it's essential. I'm setting the scene, if you like, in the way that this story does, right? Which is totally round the houses. It doesn't actually get straight to the point. It does get to the point in the end, but you have to kind of dig through all the crap to get to it. So essentially what I'm doing is giving you a load of crap, and you have to dig through it to get to the point, right? So it is Kill the Moon, if you were in any doubt as to which episode to which I was referring, right? It's Kill the Moon. And the reason I picked this is because I think it typifies a lot of the 12th Doctor's era, and in no other story as extreme as this one, I'll grant you. This story seems to be an either love or hate story. You either love it and you dig it and you get it, and it's wildly adventurous, it's allegorical, it's metaphorical, it does something which no other story has done. Yes, it does, but on the other hand, you might think it's an absolute pile of crap in some respects, which I don't quite, I don't quite come at it from that. But there is a lot that I dislike about it. But it's it is one of its kind. It's unique, and it's the kind of story which carries weight. I think it does get to where it's going in the end, and it does deliver it with a huge slap across the face. And it's quite a shocking moment when that happens, physically, Clara slapping the Doctor. Yeah. And she does it for a really good reason, because essentially that's kind of what this story does to the viewer. And how you take that slap depends on your kind of attitude, I guess, to what it's trying to teach us. Whether it's a kind of story about the fact that all of humanity is morally corrupt and beyond hope, really. The fact that we would all actually club together and vote to kill off a unique life form just because we're scared of it. Maybe that's true, but maybe it isn't true. I'd like to think it isn't true, but maybe it is. Who knows? The fact is that this story, years after it was first broadcast, still causes stirs in fan circles, in Doctor Who conversations. And it might begin with, well, I hate it because of the science, and, well, the science doesn't really matter, and all that. But eventually, all those conversations come down to what the story is all about, which is that state of humanity. Where are we right now? What do we really feel about each other? Do we club together, or do we actually be divided, and start hating on other people? And in the end, once we have a target where we can focus all our hate, instead of hating everybody else, actually, no, let's just hate that thing instead. Let's go out and let's actually kill it, because we can do that. And actually, by killing it, means we don't have to kill each other. That's great. That's brilliant. There's a lot of ways that you can read this story.
Sorry, what?
Yes?
What are we talking about? Twitter or Kill the Moon?
Well, there you are. Exactly. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Kill the Moon is an allegory for Twitter.
Yeah.
But when you get a whole bunch of people into a melting pot like that and give them an impossible choice to make, this is it, right? They are essentially blaming, everybody on the planet is blaming the moon, or the dragon, the creature that is yet to be born within the moon, for the whole destruction of Earth. It's the dragon's fault. It's the moon's fault. So what do? We don't try to understand it. We want it gone, essentially. Just kill it, just murder it. It's allowed.
It's the different, the other, something different.
It is, exactly. So that's what the story's about, and the way it treats it is incredible. It really is. I just don't like it. That's the thing. But if you're going to watch any 12th Doctor story, I think you have to watch this. And you have to make your own mind up as to whether you like it, whether you enjoy it, whether you get what it's about, or whether you get something else from it.
That's the same with any episode. Someone's favour will be something that doesn't work for someone else. I'm really surprised that you picked that one. Actually, we've done a couple of.
I explained my reasons for it.
But I was going to say we've done a couple of podcast episodes that are battle royale, where we've picked an episode.
We did Kill the Moon, didn't we?
We did Kill the Moon, and we did Sleep No More, which is a 12th Doctor episode where one of us likes it and the other one doesn't. And I liked Kill the Moon until Paul battered me down on it and left me depressed and miserable and questioning.
But you still like it, though, don't you?
I do still like it, yeah.
Yeah,
you know, if I was to watch it now, I think Paul would be sitting here going, I hate that bit. I don't like that bit.
Do you know what it is? I know I said this on a thing, but it's really the science fiction elements that I don't like. I think, you know, it strikes me as you know, somebody's idea of what science fiction is. You know, the moon, gravity, and, you know, giant eggs, and, you know, fantasy and all that kind of thing. But, you know, it's the worst of science fiction, and it's also the best of science fiction, because the best science fiction can do the other side of the story. You know, it can do that kind of you know, that sort of deep dive into the human condition. You know, telling a story about something that happens in the future to kind of tell us about something about where we are right now at this very moment. Yeah. And it does it really powerfully. And of course, the other thing it does, as I said, is it gives us that insight into the Doctor's head and what the Doctor has to do literally day in, day out. You know, we're having a lot of fun with these adventures, but at the end of it, the Doctor has to make some very deep moral choices, and those choices have consequences. And for the first time, Clara sees it, and for the first time, we see it, and, you know, through that lens. So that is brilliant. You know, I love all that. But why you've got to dick around with, you know, sort of gravity and physics and the moon and everything else, you know, as Fraser said, it's a MacGuffin. But it could have been something completely invented. I don't think it would change our feelings towards it. You know, it's like,
you're right.
You know, I'm going to write sci-fi and I'm going to turn the moon into a giant egg because that'd be a right laugh. You know,
they could have.
It just annoys me. It puts something in the way of me understanding the story, of getting to the truth of it, I think, and that's why I dislike it.
Yeah, it don't bother me.
No, because you don't care about those things.
Because I'm simple.
They
could have done it on a smaller scale. I suppose they could have been stuck in a. No power.
I don't know. I think it has to be big scale. You know, I can see that's probably the biggest.
Yes, but maybe it was the wrong sort of big to do. You know, perhaps, but it's quite an important one in the sort of Dr. Clara type thing. You know, and her seeing what it means to sort of be in the Doctor's shoes, and sort of shows a bit of. You know, his kind of callous side, you know, where he just drops her there, you know, and does a runner, and he's got a reason.
Although we do see a bit of that in Deep Breath as well, don't we?
Exactly.
There's a moment where he does that. It's almost like a forewarning of what this Doctor could easily be like, and we see that realised here.
And he's done it with, you know, what he feels is good reason, but, you know, it's still a bit of a dick move to have done it. But yeah, we did the Battle Royale episode, so if you're on the fence about Kill the Moon, check it out.
Check it out. Yes.
See what you think. Okay, that's an.
Come on then, Geoff. What's your number 5? I've done mine. That's it.
So
done with.
I'm going to go with. These are in no particular order. I'm going to go with Listen. Because
no, you go for this one.
It's a really
blue light in my face. Yeah,
I think it's a great episode. It's about well, it's kind of about fear, really, isn't it? And not you know, and using it as sort of a superpower to not be afraid of things, and you know, conquering the stuff that scares you, whether it might be a monster under the bed or, you know, whatever it might be. You know, you can kind of apply it to anything in life, really, in some ways. And it was quite an important episode, really, for showing again Clara's importance to the Doctor, because when she was in Series 7 with Matt's 11th Doctor, she ended up jumping into his time stream and getting splintered across all of the Doctor's you know, past lives, and helping in pivotal moments, some, you know, episodes that we knew and some bits that we didn't, and stuff like that. There's a whole big finish series waiting for Jenna to come and tell more.
She's busy at the moment. She seems to have endless work going on. She's in a lot of stuff.
Which is great. And this one sort of features Clara talking to what I thought was, and I think it's quite clear it is, the Doctor as a little boy, a young'un, whether it's well, now looking at it, is it an early regeneration, or first Doctor young, doesn't really matter, but she sort of imparts these bits of wisdom to him, which he then kind of takes with him, and it's an episode that it's quite an odd one, isn't it? It's another sort of Moffat that's a bit unlike anything else. He's done that a lot actually with his stuff, hasn't he? Thinking about it with Blink and Hellbent and stuff, and this one it's got a really terrifying bit. They end up going to like an orphanage, don't they? I can't remember off the top of my head why they go there. Is Danny Pink's
I haven't seen this one for quite a while actually.
I can't remember. Is it him when he's young, or his ancestor? He's not his ancestor. Is someone in the future when
it's future a future descendant. Right?
That's it. A future descendant when they're young, and they go to this orphanage or clone. Yeah, because there's a few things like don't they meet?
It's very ambiguous. There's a lot of ambiguity in the story.
They meet a future descendant of Danny Pink on a ship, don't they, and stuff, and anyway they go to this home.
You mean to tell me you didn't watch this before you started talking about it?
No. And
why do we need to do something like that? I watched it 10 years ago. That's enough, isn't it?
I've watched this one a number of times over the years, but when you get old, and also when there is so much of the stuff, I can't remember every single.
Kids falling off.
I can't remember every beat of every episode.
No.
They go to the home, and there's quite a nice bit near the beginning where the Doctor talks to the night watchman, and he's got a cup of coffee in it, do you remember? And he's saying, there's something here, there's something that's going on, sort of thing. And then the coffee cup disappears, and the guy's a bit freaked out by it, and then it cuts to the Doctor drinking it as he walks down the corridor. I thought it was quite funny. They kind of played with, a lot of gags like that. But then there's a really terrifying bit where the kid says there's something under the bed, and the blanket starts rising, and it's a brilliant sequence. Even the Doctor is scared. Don't turn around, don't look at it, and it's a great episode for sort of a bit more diving into to Clara as well as the Doctor, and sort of giving a bit of a foundation for why the character of the Doctor does what they do. I would throw that in there for a bit of a spooky, sort of unsettling thing.
It's a good one.
So that's one of mine.
I thing I like about that story, and again, it's a long time since I've seen it. Actually, I've got to be in the right mood for this one, but it's actually the whole ambiguity of it. Actually, I kind of like that. It's down to you to kind of make sense of the story in some ways. There's a lot of ways that you could read it. It's. I mean, you say that it is clear that it's the Doctor's, as a young'un, and I think it is. I think it's reasonably clear, but it's never fully confirmed, is it?
Yeah, actually,
we're sort of led along a path, and the only real sort of conclusion. I don't know if we're kind of fooled into thinking it's the Doctor, or whether it really is.
I've just looked it up quickly, and it was it was young Danny that they visit in the orphanage, but he goes by the name Rupert.
It's a young.
He's called Rupert.
Yeah, that's when the thing comes up out of the bed,
and then they do end up in the future.
Clara's underneath the bed of what we think is the young Doctor. Right? Yeah. That's it. She's and in that way she's become the thing that we fear under the bed. Yeah. Right? So, that monster that we daren't look under, the thing when we're a kid, we know is always there, and it somehow represents all our fears. Yeah. And I kind of read it as in the Doctor's sense. It's, Clara represents the Doctor's future, and she knows about his future. And that could be, she knows how terrible the Doctor can be, and by terrible I mean almost like a godlike figure who can sort of destroy planets and make or break civilizations. All that stuff that was kind of built up with the Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat era of the Doctor being some kind of destroyer of worlds, and actually Seventh Doctor to a degree as well. She knows about all the terrible things that will happen. She also knows about all the good things. But as a young kid, the Doctor is scared of all the bad stuff. And
you know, and knowing what you would do, what you could do as an adult, that you could push a button and whole races could be destroyed because you've got no other choice. Doesn't matter. The fact that you could do that, you know, is in some ways terrifying. But again, it's all that's the kind of allegory, if you like, isn't it? You know, it's never fully explained. It's inferred, and maybe that's just one way of reading it. There's a lot of other readings, and I think actually this kind of storytelling device where we're not just telling, you know, we are telling stories on the surface, but there are a lot of deeper layers to all of them. There's lots of different interpretations. I think that's a hallmark, particularly of this era of Doctor Who, of the 12th Doctor. You know, every story has multiple readings available to it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Which I like. I think it makes it kind of brave and bold. But I think there's also times when they maybe go too far along that route, like you know, with Sleep No More, which we talked about.
It's a lot more adult this series.
It is. Them, I think it kind of loses something by doing that. To be honest, because I always think that, you know, for better or worse, Doctor Who, you know, has always been at its best when it's aimed itself at the younger portion of the audience. You know, when you think about all the kids in their sort of, you know, mid-20s now, they were really young when they jumped on board with Russell T Davies. You know, maybe, you know, sort of 7 or 8, 9, 10, and look on those years as being the best. And for me, it's, you know, Tom Baker and Peter Davison. For you, Sylvester McCoy. Those are the years that grabbed us in. And I don't think at that age I'd have been quite so enamoured with, you know, with a lot of the 12th Doctor stories.
You know, I remember my wife's half brother. He was really into Doctor Who, and then when Capaldi took over, he said, "Oh, he's too old. You know, I don't want to watch it."
Which is sad. I mean, that's the wrong reason, really.
I mean, he was 10, you know, at the time, and you know, but he'd grown up with Tennant and everything. You know, or more so Matt Smith, and you know, he was a bit too young for Capaldi's kind of, you know, that darkness that it had in it, which is a shame because there's so many great episodes, but you know, it sort of lost some of the sort of family, you know, appeal to it in some ways, I think.
Yeah, I think that's sad that should be because Peter Capaldi's an older Doctor.
Exactly. It's a shame because, you know, he does have a lot of
for
fun. But, you know, bear in mind, I'm talking about a young kid's view on it here, and, you know, I could kind of see where you know, he's coming from. But I remember saying to him, "Oh, you know, you're missing out. It's really good." And
there's a lot of good stuff in there.
So, what would be your number 4?
Well, my number 4, actually, on the back of that, segues quite nicely, actually, because it's Freya's first Doctor Who story, if you like. And we say, you know, I just said this about young people perhaps not jumping on, or children specifically not jumping on, perhaps during series 8 or 9. Freya wouldn't have done. She told me that, you know, when she got around to watching them, she didn't get on with any of them particularly at all. I think some bits she liked, others she didn't. But her first Doctor Who story was the pilot. She was not even 10 years old. She was just towards the end of being 9, so like 9 3/4. And she said to me one day, "Can I watch Doctor Who with you?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, why not?" Not knowing really what it's going to be about because series 8 and 9 had been quite intense. And I wasn't sure what the pilot was going to be, and I thought, well, okay, she'll either like it or they won't. She'll either be terrified for life and scarred for life, or she'll be cool with it, you know. And far be it from me as a responsible father to deny her that experience. So I said, yeah, of course, can. So she sat with me and watched the pilot as it was transmitted, and she loved it, you know. It did. And the thing is, And it's a really happy coincidence in a way because the pilot was clearly written as almost like a reboot of the Capaldi years. You know, it's like, okay, we've done all the series stuff now. Let's go back to being Doctor Who and having some fun. You know, there are some nice little continuity references there, which obviously Freya didn't get at the time, but it didn't stop me jumping up and pointing to them like, oh, there's a picture of River Song, there's a picture of Susan, his granddaughter, there's the jar full of Sonics, and there's the TARDIS and a rug, and the whole thing looks a bit like Sharda, you know, Professor Chronotis's study in Sharda. And it was great, you know, and it was a gay storyline as well, which she always appreciates, which is good. And it was intelligently done, and then of course we get Bill Potts, right, who's so different from Clara. Clara is the most important person in the universe. The Doctor at one point literally can't exist without her. The only way he can carry on existing without Clara is to have his memory erased, because then her presence isn't weighing on his mind. Think about Clara, he's dependent on her right from Deep Breath. As soon as he gets to the end of Deep Breath, he can't go without her. Hence the reason, I don't know the reason, but the 11th Doctor's already called ahead, perhaps understanding that this is going to be a difficult regeneration for Clara to get to grips with. So taking all that away, it's like, we've done that now. We've done the Clara storyline, and it's ended and it finished on a big explosive high and all the rest of it. So let's have Bill Potts, who is just manic. She talks at 1 billion miles an hour. She compares the TARDIS to a kitchen, right? And totally upends a lot of our expectations. And she's so brilliantly endearing because of all her stuff and all the stuff that's going on in her head, which she can't help but vocalise. She doesn't seem to internalise anything. It all comes out of her mouth at 1 million miles an hour. The fact that she's in love with this girl who just gives her chips. She gives the other girl chips. She's serving the chips this girl that she fancies, and she fatted her. She just gave her too many chips, and she kept eating the chips and giving her too many chips, which is, which is crazy. And it's so. I think it's the introduction of Bill Potts, who is honestly, I think, one of my all-time favourite companions. That they're all brilliant, but she just arrived like an absolute breath of fresh air, and she seems to give the Doctor a bit of an extra spring in his step as well. The Doctor's carrying around the weight of Missy, we don't know it's her, do we?
Not
in his secret tomb with Nardole. It's just, and it's great. I mean, I love the pilot. It's not the biggest, most epic storyline.
No, but they don't all have to be. They can't all be.
No, absolutely.
It's great fun, that one. It's really kind of dynamically shot. There's some really kind of fun bits in it. It's a bit. They end up in Australia briefly, don't they, at one point, and then there's a bit of hopping around and stuff, and the things in the puddles as well, isn't it? What is it? It is in the puddles, isn't it?
Is it a puddle?
Yeah, is it? There's another Moffat, taking something every day and turning it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, the puddle or the water is the life form, isn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of takes on this sort of human aspect in order to entrap Bill at first, but then has more human kind of feelings towards her. It doesn't pay off right there at the pilot.
No,
but it pays off at the end of the series.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
When Bill, the resurrected Bill, kind of flies off into the universe with her girlfriend.
That's right. Yeah, they do. Yeah. So remember, it took a little while for it to pay off, didn't it? Yeah. Okay.
So come on in. What's yours?
My number
What's your
4,
next one?
I'm going to go in here with Last Christmas, I think. Because I said this before. Last Christmas is an episode that I still can't believe went out on Christmas Day. It is an astonishing episode in terms of the whole thing, the layers to it, the fact that it's bloody terrifying, that it's got Santa, hooting around in it, and then it's got quite an emotional ending as well, because it was supposed to be Jenna's departure, and then she changed her mind and didn't want to go. Hurrah! But it's just it's sort of like Aliens meets Inception meets The Matrix, slashed in with
meets Santa
Claus the movie. It's
and elves,
yeah. It's absolutely crazy. But it's so good. And you going back to what you said earlier about quite a lot of layers in some of this. So they end up on a Arctic base or something, don't they, in the North Pole or something like that, and the people have been got by dream crabs, aren't they, which are sort of like, they look
face huggers.
Well, they look like face huggers, kind of mixed with like walnut shells on your head, sort of thing, and then as it progresses, the Doctor and Clara start getting caught by them, don't they, and then you start to not be sure what sort of
don't know what's real and what isn't real.
Layer of sleep.
Yeah, the dream crabs, isn't it? That's what they're called.
Dream crabs. Yeah, you don't know whether the Doctor's dreaming about the situation or whether he's then or whether it's Clara dreaming, or whether it's a dream within a dream, or it's all a bit complicated. And
but it's all of those things, isn't it?
It is all of those things.
It's dreams rather than dreams. It's fictions within fiction. I mean, again, the whole metafictional aspect of that is massive because the whole thing was kind of dreamt, or one of the guy's dreams is because she was watching Alien, right? She was watching Alien.
She's got the list,
and she's got that image in her. It's her DVDs, that's right? They've literally gone through all the components of her Christmas film list because she was on her own or something. Dream crabs somehow locked onto her, and they're all part of this mass hallucination thing.
It's genuinely creepy and just so well structured. And then at the end, everything kind of gets sorted out. They fly the sleigh, don't they? It's really,
they have to.
It's really episode. Cheesy, but
we're going to get back to that shortly as well. Okay. We're going to have lots more sleigh flying to come.
So they started to I think Moffat said it was getting harder and harder to shoehorn the Christmas element in, and I think that whilst it works in Last Christmas, you can tell he's gone, oh God, we've got to get Santa in here somehow, and it works within the sort of dreamlike scenario of it, but you can kind of see. I imagine when Chibnall was told you don't have to do a Christmas one, he thought, thank God for that.
Sigh of relief.
We'll just have some fireworks and it's New Year.
You can do anything with New Year's.
And then at the end of Last Christmas, Clara sort of says she wants to go, doesn't she? And the Doctor he then visits her when she's older, and Jenna's in a load of aged makeup and stuff, and it's quite tender, isn't it? And there's a bit of a parallel between the way someone pointed this out online, that she held the 11th Doctor's hand when he was aged and sitting in his chair at the end of his days and
now the Doctor's
now he does it to her, and then forgive me, I can't remember the exact play out of everything, but she says, I don't want to go, and I don't want to stop this, and I can't remember how he kind of reverts it, but anyway, they go, he goes back, doesn't he, and she's young, and they carry on, and I wonder whether that was a kind of last minute reshoot, because apparently Jenna was like, they'd shot it and she was, that was it, farewell kind of thing. Can't remember whether she was supposed to.
She was coming back.
I don't know whether she was supposed to die or live out happy having seen the Doctor again or what, and then she was like, actually I don't want to go. So there's a sort of ending and then a tacked on new ending, where she comes back. Fine by me. I was happy to have another series of Clara, but
it would have been awful just to leave Clara locked in a nightmare of her own, sort of a dream crab nightmare. Because I think that's what it was in the end. I think the end of it, the Doctor realises that it's still not real. They think they've come out of the dream. They think they've come out of the dream again, and now Clara's really old, and it's like, really sorry that this happened to you, kind of thing. And then it's just something I can't quite remember what it was. But then the Doctor realises that it's actually they're still in the dream because she sees there's only one way out.
She's in the house, isn't she? And Danny Pink's there again, and I think is that where she sort of realises this isn't quite right, because he was dead by that point. Spoiler, sorry.
No, is it she's old, so they've already done the Danny Pink thing.
There's a bit where she's in the apartment. There's like fairy lights everywhere. It's really nicely lit.
Yeah. And then she comes out of that.
Oh,
and she's
okay, yeah. God, I should watch it.
Isn't that what it does?
Listeners, you'll have to tell us. I can't remember the exact ins and outs.
Oh, we're experts at this, aren't we?
We know our who.
Talking about a story we haven't seen for about 10 years.
But I remember it was, I had a little tear there at the end, because it's quite moving. They're both really important to each other, and shut up. So that's my number 4.
That's a good one, actually. Yeah. Actually, do you know, I was going to watch that last Christmas.
Yeah.
But
a bit multi-layered meta as well. There.
I didn't. I do like it. It's one of those where I think the first time I watched it, I wasn't massively impressed. It's again another one of those stories where the artifice of it rises to the surface. And I think actually at the time, now I remember, I think it was also the time when Sherlock was being a little bit up itself as well, right, and playing around with the fictional and the metafiction, aren't we so clever, me, Mark Gatiss, writing all this stuff. And I was really, really cheesed off with it. I'd had enough of it. Just like, do you know what? Just give me a flipping story, that I can just give me an adventure that I can get into. I like all this stuff as much as anyone else, but at the end of the day, my brain's tired. Right, I've had far too much to eat and drink. Just give me something, right? It's light and frothy. And I think I watched it again, not at Christmas, when my brain was a little bit more active. And I thought, ooh, this really is clever. Actually, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and it was okay. And I watched it a third time, and then I just thought it's great. And then I thought Nick Frost is brilliant, which he always is anyway, as Father Christmas. And I think it was the third time I noticed there's a nice little interplay between the Doctor and Father Christmas, almost like outdoing each other on their importance to modern day culture. The fact Santa Claus has been a kind of cultural icon for longer than the Doctor's been a cultural icon. Almost both of them recognising the fact that they are fictional constructs. So that's that's breaking the surface completely. That's coming right out of the water of the fiction. And breathing the cold air of actual reality, which is very dangerous, I think, for a TV show to do. But it pulls off here because it's not there unless you suddenly see it. It's you've got to be paying attention to see that. So it's pretty good. And also, I mean, Robin of Sherwood kind of does that a little bit as well. Maybe a little bit more tentatively.
I was going to put that on my list, but didn't in the end. But
we might even do a Robot of Sherwood, rather. I think you suggested it, didn't you?
Maybe I did actually. Yeah,
too convinced, but
I like it. It's good fun.
Now I think about it, I think we could. We could maybe do that one.
I'd be up for that.
Yeah, you up for that? Okay. Well, you heard it here first, listeners. At some point in the near future, we'll be doing a Robot of Sherwood review thing, retrospective, in-depth analysis. No, we won't do in-depth analysis.
We could do an episode commentary.
We can waffle about it for a bit. It's got balls and arrows. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I love it. It's brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, what number are we on now?
That was my 4.
Is that your number 4? Yeah. So number 3 for me.
Yeah. I
had to really, really think hard about this one actually. And actually, I'm still. It's always the number 3 that gets me. I'm going to go for. Can I lump these two in together actually? Because they're written by the same guy, right? Flatline and Mummy on the Orient Express.
Fuck of it.
Can I do that?
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, because I'm going to bend the rules later as well. So.
Are you? Yeah. Good for you. I'm totally going to bend the rules, and we're probably going to agree on some of these anyway. So, but there you go. See, you should go first for this, not me. Then I'm like, bugger, Anyways, right. So, they're both written by Jamie Matten, aren't they? And Mummy on the Orient Express. I mean, I remember when I first watched this one, I thought, oh wow, this is really something. This is brilliant. It's like everything that Doctor Who is good at. Scary monster. Confined scenery, right? It's all on a train. Yeah. What am I talking about? Like a claustrophobic setting. It's almost like a base under siege, but one where the monster's actually in the base, and it's kind of picking people off one by one. And it's got a brilliant conceit at the heart of it. This whole 60-second countdown. In fact, we see it on screen as well, which is even better, right? And I love the fact that the program is taking those sort of chances, those little innovations which we'd never seen before. Again, breaking the fiction, showing us the 60-second countdown, and it's inevitable, right? There's this inevitability which the Mummy kind of the Forsaken.
That's it.
The Forsoothing, Forsaken comes at people and just whips them out. And I actually I know it's a massive favourite with fans, right over. And in some ways, it comes right off the back of Kill the Moon, and almost acts as a kind of extended epilogue to that story as well.
Yes, because at the end of
it's in this story that Clara kind of really figures out exactly what the Doctor did. And she's locked away in a back carriage somewhere, and she has a chat with someone else that she's locked in with. And through that conversation, and through the sort of interrogation that the other person sort of says to her, why did he do that, and what did you feel? She comes to realise that's exactly why the Doctor did it, because now she understands what he does, and it's part of her kind of almost like like being groomed to be the Doctor. As we saw play out then in Flatline, even more so, where she actually got to be the Doctor.
I just want to make a quick aside here, because at the end of Kill the Moon, they have their great big bust up, don't they? And she sort of leaves, and you think that's it. And then for the week after that, there was no Clara in any trailers. It was Mummy on the Orient Express. So the Doctor in his tux and stuff, and they actually played it like she'd gone, and they kind of kept it.
I don't remember, to be honest.
Kept it secret, and then Mummy on the Orient Express, of course, starts with them stepping off the TARDIS together, and just getting on with it. And there's a brief mention of oh yeah, we had that argument, now we're okay again. And it was a little bit of a shame that they could maybe have done an episode where she wasn't in it or something, or they had to, something happened, they had to kind of work at getting back together again.
Wait, you actually want an episode without Clara?
No, she'd have to be in it.
Sure about that?
But Doctor Who is it's 12 episodes. You wouldn't waste an episode on something like that, not really. So whilst the repairing of things between them is off screen, it's it works, it's fine. But I did. Although
technically we did get an episode without Clara in it.
Well, I was going to say we did get one, later.
A bit later on.
Yeah. So it's fine. So it doesn't bother me. So carry on.
I've forgotten exactly where I was now.
We're
anyway,
so
blah 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 blah. Yeah, I did like it the first time round, and it plays out nicely. It's full of all the great Doctor Who stuff. It's it kind of justifies Kill the Moon in a way, sort of explains it. For those of us who are kind of too stupid to get past the science and everything else, and which is me, obviously, because I still can't, right? And it's got that wonderful conceit of the Orient Express in the future. And I think it pulls out as well is the 12th Doctor's kind of weird obsession with the military, which I don't fully understand in this. He sort of takes it out on Danny Pink a bit or something, and I don't get it here. And it's the only sour note of this story. I think the second or third time I watched it, I thought, maybe it's not as good as I thought it was. I mean, there are some ridiculous plot holes in there, which you just kind of glance past. Okay, so if that it's in one of my darkest moments. It must have been after I've watched it a few times, and I thought to myself, the Doctor's only the cleverest person in this train because everyone else is too bloody stupid, and it's almost like they're too stupid, right? But then that's a key thing of Doctor. That's been the case in Doctor
and
from
also,
way past. So,
how would you react if you had a mummy stalking at you and you only had 66 seconds?
They can't see it until it's coming at them.
That's true.
That's the thing, is it? It might just be a made-up thing. Really, it's another sort of ambiguity, which is as the terror increases and the body count racks up, people start to believe more as it goes, and the Doctor's there getting angry with people and then abandoning them again, and then sort of leading them along and interviewing people and calling them stupid and everything else. He sort of goes through the range. The 12th Doctor is a very angry Doctor, but also can be one of the most benevolent and kindest and most compassionate of Doctors, and he swings between this spectrum like a dial on drugs or something. But that makes it captivating. If there's one thing that is common throughout all of the 12 Doctor stories, that Peter Capaldi is absolutely stunning from beginning to end.
Brilliant.
You could throw anything at him, and I think that's part of why these stories are so challenging, because the writers are really pushing Capaldi where they know he can go, where they know he's going to give his best, and obviously to try and inject something new into the Doctor Who formula, because there are times when it is starting to feel like a formula, and there's times when it's starting to feel like a formula that is being pushed into some really difficult spaces. But throughout all of those, whether you go along with those and enjoy it, or whether you don't quite enjoy every, it quite so much, nonetheless, Capaldi is there steering that ship and driving every story with energy.
For me, that's kind of the case with any episode of the show, because even if one doesn't quite click with me as much as the one before or the one after or whatever, there's always something to enjoy, and it's more often than not, well, always, it's the lead actors' performances, so yeah, that's that.
I know what you're saying, and the Doctor is clearly the pivotal role within his stories. It's called Doctor Who, But having said that, I mean, I can think of a few stories where it felt as though Tom Baker was just kind of dialing it in, and how and the performance would very much depend on the mood he was in on the day, and maybe to some degree John Pertwee. Actually, you look at some of John Pertwee's stories, and he does seem a little bit short and abrupt, and whether that's, but again, it's the brilliance of these actors. You don't know whether that's actually because that's them on the day, or whether that's just how they, all decided they were going to play it. That's the tone. It's brilliant. It's good. But I think some of the later, Tom Baker in something like The Horns of Nimon, for example, doesn't feel as engaged. Throughout some of season 18, perhaps he doesn't feel like he's quite there. With season 18, it works because his sort of distance and aloofness actually gives a kind of sobriety to his Doctor that hadn't been present, and it all kind of foreshadows his impending doom at the end of Legopolis. But in season 17, it's just like they're all out on the piss, and let's just get the show done, and then we go back out on the piss. And then you got people like Lala Ward who's trying to really do their best with it all, and just. That is what it is. But I could be totally wrong. Sometimes that's how it feels.
Yeah.
But yes. Anyway, back to the more recent present. So I did say I was going to include Flatline in this, but as we've already talked about Flatline previously, let's knock it on the head, and I'll stick with Mummy on the Orient Express.
Okay. Well, my 3 was going to be Flatline. So I won't talk about it too much, and especially as you were going to. Double it up in your slot there, but Flatline is kind of Clara Who in this one, Dr. Clara, isn't it? The Doctor gets trapped in a shrunken TARDIS, and Clara has to go and kind of save the day, and they discover people are being sort of flattened, aren't they?
Flattened, they've been flattened,
turned into 2 dimensions,
put into graffiti,
2-dimensional people.
And it's a really clever concept for a villain, an alien. And Jenna really gets to shine in this one, and I love the stuff of the Doctor in the mini TARDIS with his hand coming out like Thing, with a TARDIS shell.
It's quite good fun.
So there's some sort of slightly sort of scary moments in this, and some nice humour as well. And Capaldi has quite a good mini Doctor speech, at the end when he comes to save the day. We did an episode on this, didn't we? When we look back at it,
we did. Yes.
So
go back and find it.
Go back.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we won't go on about it much more here, but it's great. I am a big fan of this episode. The concept of the villains in it is something I really liked, and like I said, shrunk TARDIS and Clara getting to take charge, and she's confident but cocky, and there's a sort of slight arrogance, and she sort of
egotism.
Feels that
egotism,
ego, something.
Narcissism.
She feels that she's invulnerable, which is sort of what becomes her downfall in a way, for good reasons, but it was the death of her in the end, sort of. So are you on to 2 now?
I'm on number 2. Yeah,
okay.
I know exactly what my number 2 is going to be.
Go on then.
Although again, I did waver. So my number 2 is going to be another double bill. Actually,
yeah,
it's going to be the Zygon invasion, Zygon inversion, which I love.
Oh, that's good.
I think now this is Peter Harness, Kill the Moonwriter,
on fire.
Yeah.
This is right up his back alley.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff where he's really strong at, because it's a very contemporary setting,
Yeah.
and it's a very contemporary theme. And in a way, it's another kind of allegorical story. It's telling us all about kind of xenophobia and war and terrorism and the military and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really relevant. I watched this one again quite recently, and it's quite flipping scary.
Oh, it's very.
Given what's going on in the world now, you just kind of think, do you know what? If we actually really could have that situation at the end of the Zygon inversion played out now between the superpowers, then we could all probably sleep easier in our beds at night. And the bloodshed and everything, just wake up and just realise how just fucking stupid it all is. And it's all typified in that speech that the Doctor gives at the end of the Zygon inversion, the second part of this.
It's
incredible.
10-minute monologue.
It is.
I was thinking about that today because I was going to include these episodes in. The main plot is that the shape-shifting Zygons have sort of infiltrated. They're living on Earth, aren't they?
They're cohabiting.
Yeah,
There's been a cohabitation agreement following the Zygon presence in Day the Doctor.
And it's all kind of above board. But then there's a few of them who are sort of essentially tired of living in the shadows, aren't they? And they're kind of a they're a terrorist cell, basically, right? They're a splinter cell. They're a bunch of they're also, they are like fanatical Zygons, right? Who for some reason Bonnie, the sort of leader of these who ends up taking on Clara's form, decides that these are going to be her instruments of war. Yeah.
And they're going to kill all the humans, and all the Zygons are going to be there. But it's a futile war because there's what is it? It's like 20 million Zygons living on a planet, but there's 8 billion humans. They're ridiculously outnumbered. Yeah. And yes, they've got some technology, but they're not going to win this war. They've got some nice things that they can do, some mind tricks and mind games, and it's a cracking good story because you've got all that war stuff on the one hand, and you have that massively impassioned speech at the end of it, which I think really is the first full Capaldi 12th Doctor speech that we get. And I remember watching this the first time I watched this. Again, in those days, I had to watch Doctor Who on my own because my wife wasn't watching it and my kids weren't watching it. This is pre-season 10, so Freya wasn't watching it then either. So I watched this on my own. And I thought, oh my goodness, man! This seemed to me, this is Peter Capaldi's moment. That Doctor-defining moment. And it's not so much the content of the speech. The words are fine. They're very heartfelt. They're written from feeling, and it's a bit of a pipe dream, perhaps. Could you really do that? But the way Capaldi delivers it, the fury in his anger, the sheer exasperation at having to deal with two militaristic blockheads who eventually have to realise that after all the fighting and all the bloodshed and everything else, the only thing they're going to have to do to resolve everything and figure out the way forward is talk.
Yeah.
So why not do that now, before all the bloodshed and everything else, and actually avoid all that stuff? Yeah. Why have to go through that and have people screaming and have people, have their homes blown apart and their families destroyed and their livelihood and their culture and everything that defines family and people and civilization? Why go through all that when you're going to have to sit down and talk it out anyway? And then what happens to, and he puts it to Bonnie, once you've got your perfect world, what do you do with people like you? The upcoming generation of zealots, of fanatics, of people, the warmongers. You know what I mean? The children, as he describes them, who want to throw their tantrums. Yeah, and what do you do with those people?
It's right. So much stuff could be avoided by talking, but there's got to be a bit of willy waving and blowing some shit up, and
maybe that's what they should do. Just get it out in a room and just wave it around, and then go for a pint afterwards. I mean, who hasn't done that? Frankly,
play a bit of swords.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, the other aspects of this I really like. Okay, so back to the whole thing about it being a contemporary sort of thriller.
Do you remember the cliffhanger from part 1, which ended up being?
Yeah. I'm getting to that. Wait. Put me up a stride now because I'm in the zone, right? So what you've also got in here is you've got a whole kind of treatment of of identity, which is perfect for Zygons, right? Because that's what the Zygons are all about. They kind of, they have their own identity, or do they only define themselves by copying the humans who they've got locked up in their pods, or whose form they take on? It's quite an interesting thing, because you got this Osgood and Osgood at the start of it, right?
You never know which one.
And the Doctor, there's only one Osgood left, because the other Osgood died at the end of series 8 in the play that Missy's hands, right? Missy killed her, if I remember. But we don't know which Osgood that was, whether it was the human Osgood or whether it was the Zygon Osgood. So everyone's asking the Osgood who survives, well, which one are you, the human or Zygon? And their answer is always the same. It's always, I'm Osgood. And it's to say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm Zygon or if I'm human. I'm me, right? It doesn't matter, and you extend that into the wider world. It doesn't matter what sex I am biologically. It doesn't matter really. You don't define me by the colour of my skin, or how I look, or the colour of my eyes, or the tone of my voice, or what God I believe in, or what culture I come from. Any of that stuff. It doesn't matter a jot. When it starts to matter to people, that's when we start getting division and factions and terrorism and hatred and wars and everything else that kind of follows that. But, Osgood is just Osgood. And it doesn't matter whether she's human or whether she's Zygon or whether she's some sort of weird, some sort of combination of both of those things. And at the very end of it, and the Doctor still asks her the question, so which one are you? And she's good, oh, that's right. And Bonnie's kind of taken on Osgood's form as well and switched the whole personality because she's now part of Osgood, right? She's Osgood as much as Osgood is Osgood. And we don't know if we got two Zygons or one human and one Zygon still. It's still there. And Osgood says she will answer the question at some point when the world is ready for it, which I kind of take to mean when we're at a point in our kind of awakening, if you like, that we realise, all of us realise, that these things really don't matter, or they've stopped mattering so much, or stopped mattering at all. When we're ready for that moment, when you just ask someone, well, who are you? And I'm me. That's it. It doesn't matter about anything you see or what you think I am or where you think I came from. And then, aside from that as well, you've also got this entire demonization of a race that can't really defend itself. So you got Zygons, like I said, they got some technology and some sort of zappy powers and stuff like that, but they're a minority. It's only 20 million of them. It sounds like a big number, but against 8 billion people, it's not that many at all. No. It's probably 20 million or so. Well, maybe not quite. What's the population of London? It's about 10 million,
60 million,
12 million, something like that.
Maybe.
So, that's all there is. It's just less than or about one city's worth of Zygons. And this whole thing about the fact that Kate Stewart, as soon as she realizes that there's a faction of them that are going out causing terror around the world, it's like, well, let's kill all of them. You know what I mean? So, and that's what she comes out with, right? This is just blow them all up. And it's like, no, you don't do that. And he's trying to convince her that this is just one minority within a minority. It's just a few fanatics, who want something more, and who've got some anger within them and the means to start blowing stuff up and start messing with people's lives and things like that. They somehow find the means to do that. They're the ones who've got to be stopped, not the entire race of people, because as the Doctor points out, there's there's good and bad in everybody, in humans, or in Zygons or aliens or whatever, right? And again, on an allegorical sense, the Zygon invasion/inversion plays this out magnificently, intelligently, and with a real adult sensibility. There you go. That's it.
Fantastic.
Plus,
two-parter.
We've also got Clara fighting back in her dream world
Yes.
which is the same set, I think, that we were talking about with Last Christmas.
Yeah,
she's
talking.
I think it looked like it.
In the TV, isn't she?
She's using it. Yeah, she's kind of got this. The TV has Bonnie's point of view as she's pointing a big bazooka at the Doctor's plane for pouncing around in.
Because that's the cliffhanger, isn't it? She fires the missile launcher at the plane, and then that sadly happened in real life at the same time. And then I remember people online were like, "Oh, I can't believe Doctor Who would copy that incident." You do know that they don't film it the day before it goes out, don't you? So it was just
I don't think I was online much in those days.
Yeah,
actually, it was probably just
that was why
about it.
Robot Sherwood had its end changed, if you remember that as well, because originally the robot sheriff was beheaded in it, and sadly something had happened similar in the news at the time. So there was an emergency re-edit before it went out.
Yes.
I don't remember whether it went out with it and then it happened, or the incident happened.
I can't remember that. Yeah, it does ring a bell.
Yeah, certainly now you can't get it in its original form. Anyway, it was changed, so it was quite interesting. Yeah, one of the Target novels coming out later this year is Zygon Invasion, isn't it? I think
it is. Yeah, Peter Harness has
done it.
Written
so
it.
Hopefully,
I think it was supposed to be out last year, wasn't it? Originally,
it was.
It was delayed.
And
delayed.
Hopefully, they'll do Inversion. Maybe next year. So complete the.
Is it not? Is it not both of them combined? I thought it was.
I don't think so. No, unless they're calling it.
What would be the point of that? What's the point of that?
That's what I thought.
Stick them both in. Yeah. They're only 45 minutes long anyway.
Yeah, unless they're calling.
Instead of having an extended novel, just shove both episodes in, for crying out loud.
Look it up quickly.
They're trying to get more money out of us, Geoff.
Well, unless he wants to expand it. Unless it is they're just calling
Make it a bumper edition, double the price.
Unless they're just calling it Zygon Invasion.
Yeah, because you wouldn't call it Doctor Who and the Zygon Invasion and Doctor Who and the Zygon Invasion, would you? You just pick one of those titles, because I mean it's a complete story. You can't just have one and not the other.
Yeah, maybe it is
ridiculous.
That would.
Must be both, mate.
Yeah.
Must be. We'll find out soon anyway, because I'm first in the queue for reading it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't say. So my number 2 is going to be The Magician's Apprentice / The Witch's Familiar, which is I
was hoping you were going to go for this one, because I was going to choose it.
It's a cracking Dalek adventure, and the first time we've seen Davros since the end of Series 4 as well.
Yeah,
and
true.
There's a sort of. So if you don't know, the Magician's Apprentice is obviously sort of the junior, and the Witch's Familiar was the sort of pet that a witch would supposedly have, a cat or frog or whatever, that was kind of their, junior, I guess, in a way. And so I think in some ways this kind of, this naming obviously refers to Clara, with both the Doctor and Missy, and the Doctor and Missy to each other as well, and so we and also I guess you can see it with Davros as well, because there's quite a bit of enriching of the things between the Doctor and Davros, isn't there? There's a really kind of quite sort of bizarrely moving conversation between them, and Davros opens his eyes, doesn't he? And for all these years we thought he just had sort of black patches where they used to be, and the blue thing there, but Moffat's like, no, he's got eyes and they're here, and but then of course there
was a bit of a consternation about that, wasn't there? I think
I remember people unsurprisingly
quite happy
people
about
didn't like it, and then he betrays the Doctor, doesn't he? He wants to take his regeneration energy for his own benefit, and then he
never trust
he gets the Doctor, the sort of snaky tentacle things come down and ensnare him, don't they?
Sucking all his regeneration energy out of him.
And you've got the bad guy that's made up of snakes. Can't remember his name, and he glides around, doesn't he? He's got an odd name, and they can't remember it.
It was on the tip of my tongue just a second ago when you said
I've got it in the back of my head, but I can't remember. And you've got that bonkers beginning where the Doctor has gone back to the whatever century, and he's isolating from people and stuff, isn't he? And and then he rides a tank into to the battle tournament playing guitar.
Yeah, on his guitar, on his axe,
and he's playing is it Pretty Woman when he's singing about Clara and stuff. And it's
been a while, mate.
It's totally crazy. But really good fun, and is this when he starts calling himself Dr. Disco and wearing Sonic
it's his kind of midlife crisis, isn't it? I think season 9 starts with the Doctor having a bit of a moment,
well,
bit of a midlife
it starts
thing.
quite light, doesn't it, and ends like completely.
Well, it starts
the opposite.
light for the Doctor's perspective, I think, from the other side of the story, from Clara's side of the story, because this is where she meets Missy.
Yeah, she ends up being taken to a Scarlet.
She has to.
She, with
it's this one which starts with all the planes suspended in the sky, right?
Yes, that's it.
And unit called in.
And there's that bit where Missy's head pops out of a monitor. Why? It's so stupid. But she was
because why not?
Hey Missy, she does, doesn't she? So yeah, silly, but you know.
I'm still trying to think of that guy's name.
I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to see if I can remember it.
No, I'm trying not to.
He's made of all the snakes, and he glides around on the floor, which is quite cool. And Clara and Missy end up.
They sort of team up. They become the Doctor and companion, don't they?
And Missy
almost foreshadowing the end of this series to a degree.
And Missy keeps on about, I'll tie you up and poke you with a stick and stuff like that, and torture you and things. And then you got the bit where the Doctor sits in, is it Davros's chair, and he confronts all the Daleks.
He kind of wheels around the place.
Yeah, and he's sort of taking the piss out of them, and then he produces a cup of tea, doesn't he? And he says, "Did you wonder where I got it from? Don't worry about that." And it's such a Moffat thing to be like, "Oh, we'll just put out a cup of tea,"
Yeah, and it's a bit cheeky.
It
really,
is a bit, and you could
bit
be
of a kick in the arse for anyone who likes the fiction of these things.
Yes, I suppose. Whereas I kind of found it quite amusing, and
I wasn't so sure.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I do like this story though. I think you're talking about. So it's the full double.
Oh,
part,
the whole
right?
thing.
The
Yeah,
Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar.
Adventure here. It's really good. Yeah,
it is good. I mean, on the one hand as well, the recreation of 1960s style Skaro is superb.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah,
it's just brilliant to have the Daleks back in a Dalek city that looks like it did in the Hartnell days, and we have those sort of silver Daleks that they had in the Chase and what have you. We got all kinds of Daleks as well, haven't we?
Yeah, there's quite a few
almost like
of them.
Asylum. There seems to be some sort of hierarchy within them as well, which I think Moffat was quite into. And I think also you're right, I think this story's main strength is the conversation between Davros and the Doctor. And it's quite hypnotic.
It is.
To kind of watch. And it's almost like Clara and Missy is sort of being the B plot.
Yeah, they are.
Right, to a degree. And then, of course, towards the end, it all sort of comes together.
Yeah, the bits with Davros, it's quite lengthy, actually, as a sort of chunk of that episode. And it's them, just talking.
But that's always been good. In the Davros stories, it's always been a highlight. Tom Baker and Davros with Michael Wisher in Genesis of the Daleks. Even Peter Davison, Terry Malloy, Colin Baker, Terry Malloy. I think Sylvester McCoy talks to a very unhinged Davros and sort of rages and rants at him in Remembrance. And we don't get much of him really in Journey's End. He's a prisoner of the Daleks, isn't he? We don't seem to have that interplay with him and the 10th Doctor.
No. He's
in fact, there's a really good interplay between Davros and Sarah Jane in there, which I felt was quite emotional. So it's not really until we get to this one that we have that full-on 20-minute between them.
He's definitely been underused in the revival, and
I think we've seen him since then, haven't we?
No, I was really hoping that he, I've talked before about my entirely fictionalised mythical plan for Chibnall's third Dalek story, and I'd sort of hoped that he was going to bring Davros back in that, and that would have been quite something to see, but obviously things didn't kind of go that way in the end. So yeah, maybe he'll come back with Ncuti. That'd be good.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe it will. But the other thing I like about this as well is the fact that we get another of Moffat's obsessions, which is getting inside the Dalek. And literally, that's what we have in Asylum of the Daleks. We've got their kind of madness, if you like, their insanity.
Yeah.
And we've also got the view from inside the Dalek. So we have Clara, or one of Clara's splinters, right?
Yeah,
Oswald, the first time we meet her. And that sort of, almost in a way, goes back to, actually, or is
echoed in the Zygon inversion. So when Clara herself is trapped inside her own, she's in the pod, and she's got this kind of fantasy world around her, which is her own apartment, and she's able to interact with the outside world through the TV, right, by trying to get her fingers to kind of move so that Bonnie will text the Doctor. And obviously when she's a Dalek in Asylum of the Daleks, she's in a sort of kitchen thing with a monitor to the outside world, and she's making eggs and souffles and all that sort of stuff. So it's almost like, there's a strength of character within Clara that on one hand you think, well, she retreats into a fantasy, but the fantasy world that she's in helps her cope with the horror of what's actually happening. And the horror in Asylum is that she's the Dalek. Now when we get to the Witch's Familiar, right, then she is literally inside the Dalek, and it's a terrifying place, and Jenna Coleman brings that terror. And of course Missy is the one who got her in there, and we don't really know what Missy's motives are. So for all we know, right, and it seems to be going that way, is that Missy could have tricked Clara to being inside the Dalek and imprison her in that casing forever. And that's terrifying. And from Clara's perspective, we hear her saying, all these things about, it's me, it's Clara, get me out.
It doesn't come out like that, does
it?
And
it doesn't come out like that. Like the Dalek doesn't have enough vocabulary to do that, so it goes to the exterminate or the you will obey or whatever. Those kind of things.
I liked that.
And that has a double-edged kind of tragedy about the nature of the Dalek. And it's one thing I really, really like about Stephen Moffat's Dalek stories, the fact they're not just flying and whizzing around, just shooting the crap out of everything. There is some sort of exploration as to the psychology and the physicality of them. What is it that actually makes a Dalek? We're sort of shown into the Dalek. Again, the guys get miniaturized and literally thrown into a Dalek and exploring it in a physical space. But, again, we get that combination of the physical and the mental space when Clara's trapped in at the end of the Witch's Familiar. And I love all that stuff. And, it's disappointing, really, when we just go back and see them shooting the crap out of things. That's why I say to you, at the end of, was it Revolution of the Daleks, I just don't like the idea of all these Daleks just flying around and getting shooting to the TARDIS. That's like the most boring part of being a Dalek. But for me, for 8-year-old me, I would have just wanted them whizzing around shooting things. So the fact we can have both of those things really is very, very cool. And this is one story where I think we really get into the Daleks.
It's
I'm going to shut up now.
Really good. I really enjoy this one. There's a lot to it, I think, actually. So what would be your number one?
I still don't know. I'm torn. I'm really, really torn. And do you know, I'm going to massively cheat because each one of these is a 3-parter. Okay. And I don't know. I can't choose, right? So you tell me, right? I love the Monk trilogy, and for most of today, it was going to be the Monk trilogy. So that would be Extremis, The Pyramid at the End of the World, and Lie of the Land, which I just absolutely love. But then before that, when we first suggested the idea of doing an Essential 12th Doctor, it was always going to be Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, and Hell Bent.
That's what mine would be.
And actually, I'm thinking also though it's got to be the season 10 finale, right? So it's got to be The World Enough and Time and The Doctor Falls. And I'm going to lump Twice Upon a Time in there as well.
Well, you can get away with that. It
encapsulates everything.
Yeah.
So, do you know what? I'll leave it to the viewers. My number one could be any one of those. And it is definitely one of those three for reasons.
I'm going to put it out at Face the Raven, Heaven Sent and Hell Bent. I'm not going to talk about them.
Let's do that one.
Well, there's 3 there. It's a lot to talk about, but it's this sort of trilogy starts off with a normal adventure, don't they? The Doctor and Clara meet up with Rigsy again, the lad from Flatline, and he's moved on a bit in life and got a better place, and they discover what's called a trap street, which was a fake street that would have been put on an old map by a cartographer whenever 1850 or whatever to sort of essentially copyright their map, and trick someone, so they knew they'd put a fake street in if someone else had,
they knew it was their map.
But this is a real street that is kind of a refuge for aliens that come to Earth and stuff, isn't it? And it's looked after by a Shilda or me,
the girl who
lived,
died, and the woman who lived.
So it's that girl from Game of Thrones. As far I really liked the Viking one. I didn't really like the other one, although I have only watched it once a long time ago. I should perhaps revisit. I just remember thinking the lion guy was a bit I didn't really like him for some reason.
It's all right. Didn't find it massively offensive.
Yeah, I mean it was fine. It was it was good fun. But I wasn't big on the Ashilda character, but anyway, we find they're in this kind of trap street and stuff, and Clara, I can't remember how it all goes down, but basically she Riggsy, it's a neck thing, isn't it? That starts,
Colony South.
That's it. Yeah, the snake guy. Yeah. What a random name.
Just come in like Colony South. That's his name, because it's a colony of snakes. Sorry, mate. I just had to explode it out there before I forgot it again.
Yeah, well done. They how does it go in Faces of Raven? God, I've watched this one so many times, but not for a while now. And Riggsy ends up with a neck counter thing, doesn't he? Is that right? And when it reaches 0, he's going to die. Is that right? And then Clara tries to take it, to put it on herself, and she sort of feels, she's like, oh yeah, the doctor will sort it out. The doctor fixes everything, but he can't.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, Riggsy's marked for death by some spiritual thing that is manifested by
it's embodied by tattoo,
this raven.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a death mark, isn't it? It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she, Clara's arrogance. Yeah, she takes it off.
That's right, because you can pass it to someone, can't you? But you can't.
Yeah.
And so she's doing a good thing, but thinking, the doctor can sort this out.
Sort it out.
And he can't.
Yeah. But he takes one look and he's horrified.
Yeah.
And angry at what she's done.
Yeah, and it's awful, isn't it? And she has to sort of accept that, this is it. And she walks down to the street, and the raven flies at her, and she takes the hit and collapses on the street.
Beautiful
and the doctor is he's not happy. Let's say that.
No, he's not happy at all, because the whole thing was put there for him. It was a trap for him, not Clara. The Time Lords set this up because they were terrified about this prophecy of the hybrid, which was kind of floating through the whole series.
What was it? Don't know.
No, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what it is, right? The Time Lord's terror of it creates the thing itself.
Right.
And it doesn't matter almost what you call it. It's just this, just this meeting of events that is going to decide somebody's fate. And from what they can see, the whole thing about this thing, it basically destroys the Time Lords, or changes their society to such a degree that those who have control of it, i.e. Rassilon, will be, that control is going to be ripped away from them. They won't be in charge anymore. Basically, the Time Lords will not be the big power. At best, at worst, they're going to be completely wiped out. So they think the Doctor is the hybrid, and they kind of create they create him as a hybrid by trying to stop him becoming that. By basically putting him in this trap, so he's raging at Clara. Raging at the Time Lords because of Clara's death. Then they stick him in a confession dial for billions of years, which just makes him even more determined. So when he comes out, he kicks the arse out of him. And he banishes Rassilon. So Rassilon has no more power. He's not in charge of the hybrids. And then the prophecy of the hybrid and what he'll do, i.e. take Rassilon out of the equation, change their power structure, has actually come to pass. At least that's how I read it.
Yeah, okay. I remember being a bit vague about what the hybrid was supposed to be.
But it is, though. Again, I think there's probably different ways of maybe reading it. But
thing.
That's my thread through the whole thing.
He has the confession dial, doesn't he? Or Missy's got it at the beginning of the season.
Missy has it in the Magician's Apprentice.
And what does she say?
Whichever one's first.
It'll open at she has a phrase, doesn't she? He'll open at his
I can't remember what she's
moment of need or something like that. And that's when he ends up in it, doesn't he? Which is
Heaven Sent,
isn't it? And then he's trapped in this sort of time loop type thing, isn't he? And he's being stalked by what's it called, the Veil?
The Veil,
sort of horrible looking white cloaked thing. And we could do an episode on this at some point. It's an astonishing piece of TV that's essentially Peter Capaldi on his own,
single-hander. It's never been done before in the history of Doctor Who. What an episode!
And he's there's a is it crystal diamond wall that's going to stop him. If he can break it, he can get out, and he punches it, doesn't he? Once or twice, and then the Veil gets him, and he sort of
and then he's back in the transmate, isn't he? So he's locked in that transmate, so every time he dies he's rejuvenated through that, and each cycle he manages to plant something that will help his next cycle through, because he starts it with no memory of what's happened, but eventually comes to figure things out. And it's almost like, I always look at it as like playing what was that game from Myst? Do you remember? Did you ever play that? Myst. MYST. Brilliant. It's basically a puzzle game, a bit like that, where you're literally just alone on an island and have to figure out what's going on and how to get the next bit. And it's almost like you do it through repeated plays almost. You could spend hours on it and not get anything, but you maybe solve one small part of a puzzle. So the next time you go into it, you pick up from where that puzzle left off, and you're like, and that opens another thing. And it's all cyclical. And that's how I sort of look at Heaven Sent, is a bit like the Doctor leaving himself little puzzles to figure out. So the next time he's around, he can build on it and eventually figure out what he needs to do. And he does that each time. After how many goes, we don't know.
Billion,
but eventually gets to the point where he realises he's got to punch. He punches through. Starts punching through this diamond wall, and then eventually, so many times afterwards, it's going to take him millions and millions of goes to get this right, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
The determination he's got there, and to obviously to get out of it, but exact revenge for Clara. And then, like you said, he goes to Gallifrey, doesn't he? And he kicks a load of Time Lord ass, but then he goes back and uses, I can't remember what they call it, but he saves Clara at the moment before the Raven hits her, doesn't he? And her heart
stops her heart or holds her in that moment of time before she dies.
She's alive, but she's only got like one heartbeat left or something, and then there's sort of resolution with the hybrid and stuff, and then it ends. Sort of. What were you going to say?
That's right. No, go on.
Well, it ends. It's such a painful ending, isn't it? Where they've got the I don't know. Again, I can't remember what they call it, but it will wipe.
One of them's going to lose their memory.
Going to lose memories, and he wants to wipe hers so she forgets about him and can go off and kind of live.
And she says, "Don't you dare!
Yeah,
don't you dare do a Donna Noble on me."
That's which is
it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And then they both touch it or something? I can't really remember how.
Yeah,
it works.
both end up grabbing it at the same time. And it goes,
and you don't know quite what's happened until he gets up and he doesn't remember. Oh God, Capaldi plays it so well, because in the moment when he realises in Face the Raven that she's got to die, he's absolutely heartbroken in that. His performance there is just amazing, and then again here when he doesn't remember her, and there's not even a kind of hint. The only sort of vague memory he has of her is in it was in that first episode of Class when he goes to Coal Hill, and there's a list of students or something, people who are no longer with us, and it's got C. Oswald. He's looking at it, and he looks at the name, and he has a sort of there's something, some vague memory,
right?
And then of course at the end of Twice Upon a Time, there's a bit more kind of closure to it. But I remember thinking was really kind of it hurt when he couldn't remember her, and then
And he's picking at his guitar, isn't he?
That's
he's playing her theme tune.
He goes to
in the diner.
Yeah, he goes to the diner. I can't. He's summoned there somehow, isn't he? And he I can't quite remember how. But yeah, it's a bit self-referential.
Another one you watched quite recently.
Yeah, and
in preparation for this very show, Geoff.
Well, we only decided to do this a couple of days ago. I don't have time to watch this many.
Do you know? I thought myself, I've got 2 weeks to watch all the episodes I want to watch, and just life and work and stuff just gets in the way. Man. It's just ridiculous.
This volume of episodes, I can't get it done in a short space of time. But yeah, he's playing the Clara melody, isn't he? Which is one of the most beautiful melodies.
I hate it.
I know you don't like it. And
it makes me cringe every time I blooming hear it.
You don't think that she remembers him, but then it becomes clear that she remembers everything in the diner.
Oh, she does. She's in control.
Yeah. And then he leaves, and then you discover that diner is a TARDIS, and then
an old-fashioned white TARDIS with round things on the walls, and
she flies off with a Shielder, me, which I never quite got, but it kind of opened up, for more Clara adventures down the line.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the following series we get Bill flying off with the girl with star in her eyes, the pilot.
Yeah.
So I mean, Moffat doesn't like people to die.
He does not like.
Oh no, he does like them to die. He just likes them to die multiple times and then have a happy ending where they live forever.
That's it.
As super beings of some elevated fashion. In some way, I mean, he killed Rory enough times, didn't he?
Yes.
And then got him to live forever as a Auton Centurion.
Yeah, for a couple of thousand
years.
Yeah.
Messed up reason, I don't know. Oh my god.
So I just like
talk about playing fast and loose, but it's fun. Sorry, mate, go on.
I just would like to read a few tweets that we had.
Go for it.
People when we asked their favourite episodes. So John Isles, who's at Celsi, which is Isles backwards, very good, John, _John,
good.
just simply says heaven sent. Oliver Wake, who's Wake _Oliver, he says, hold on, it's this bit, oxygen. So just
I did think about oxygen as well, actually.
Was a cracking episode.
Do like zombies in space.
Yes, very good. Matt Dennis, Matty J. Dennis says, obviously Heaven Sent and World Enough and Time / Doctor Falls, Stone Cold classics. I have a big soft spot for Under the Lake Before the Flood. It's definitely the best standalone story for the 12th Doctor, of which there are many. Yeah, that was a good one. That the Fisher King was the baddie in that. That was a cracking design on that thing.
It was a good design, but we didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I was unsure of that one. It was never in my list, but I know it's got a lot of very passionate fans.
Yeah, I liked that one. So. Book It. It's a radio show I hosted for 7 years.
Is that their Twitter handle?
No, that's their username. It's so long it's finished on the screen.
It's nearly as bad as mine.
At Book It _Zine FM. Possibly the one with the Celestial Oriental Express, or the one where he takes control of the Time Lords.
Mummy in the Orient Express.
His reaction to Clara's death was also very good. Jason, whose Doctor Who novels, says Mummies, first 20 minutes of Kill the Moon, most of Series 10. The moment in Series 11 where Capaldi addresses the audience about the bootstrap paradox. And plays his own theme
that is
song.
good.
Epic. Which one's that? It's not Series 11.
That is good. That's Under the Lake, Before the Flood again, isn't it?
Yeah, another sort of
that's brilliant.
Meta
that's
moment
really
there,
good.
Yeah.
I think that's the best part of that whole two-parter.
Yeah,
I don't think
that was pretty cool. And then
again, Capaldi at his best, absolute best, doing stuff like that.
Robot of Death says, I don't really have an episode, more that I just love moments where Capaldi is let loose, moments in Zygon, Inversion, Oxygen, Listen, Thin Ice, Heaven Sent. He's capable of lifting a story ever higher. Fantastic Doctor.
It's true, actually. Good point.
So that was, excuse me a moment, that was on your tweet that you did.
That was on my tweet. I remember it because I read it earlier today.
You know those answers very well, and I was thinking, I'm sure there was more than that.
I haven't got Twitter open in front of me.
No, I've got
something weird's going on with Twitter at the moment. I've got this little dog instead of a little bird.
No, really?
So it's been hacked or something, so I'm not going onto it.
So Matthew, who's at Disciple of Brad, I'm just ignoring the dog. He says, "Mummy on the Orient Express is the quintessential Doctor Who episode. I'll never tire of watching it." Now I know Matthew from our Twitter exchanges, so I asked him if this had nothing to do with Clara's dress, and he put a GIF of Clara going, so I'm going to assume that it had nothing to do with Clara's dress. And then someone else commented, Clara had a lot of serves. That was Defrosted Robot. Yes,
what?
Clara had a lot of serves.
A lot of serves.
I guess, it's cool. Ask Freya, she knew what sleigh meant, so, she might know. Someone called Diabolical, Evil Schemes Done Better, who's at Diabolical Pod, says, as nobody's mentioned it yet, his speech from the Zygon inversion. So
I mentioned it,
which we did now. Martin Morls Sosa says, "Time Heist Mummy. This one's fully sold me on Capaldi. Under the Lake, Before the Flood, Heaven Sent, Doctor Falls." We got quite a few. I'm not going to read all of them because we haven't got time, I'm afraid, everyone. But Robert Thomas says, "Love the 12th Doctor's era. Big fan of." It says Into the Sail, but I assume that's supposed to be Into the Dalek. Robots of Sherwood, Mummy on the Orient, Magician's Apprentice, Witch's Familiar, Knock Knock, Empress of Mars are just a few of the greats. Willow Turner at Willow T29237014. Catchy. Under the Lake, Before the Flood, Mummy, World Enough. There's lots of Zygons here. Ashley Maxwell, Flatline, Heaven Sent, Josh, Uncut Laddie, Sleep No More, Good Lad, Deep Breath, Face the Raven, Magician's Apprentice.
Someone mentioned Time Heist as well.
Yeah, there's another one here. Heather Crossley, who's the first flack, says Time Heist is always a fun one to watch.
I did think about that one, but I honestly haven't seen it for such a long time. I didn't think I could really sort of talk about it confidently enough.
Yeah, it is a good one.
I do remember enjoying it for sure.
Time Lad Danny, who's Danny7154, says, "How many seconds in eternity? Who I am is where I stand, and where I stand is where I fall." And then I'm just going to hop over to James H says Thin Ice, Flatline and Husbands of River Song would be my choice. And Mike Honor says, "This is one of my favourite eras, one of my favourite Doctors. I'll allow myself 3 episodes per season. Into the Dalek, Listen, Flatline, Magician's Apprentice, Under the Lake, Heaven Sent, Thin Ice, World Enough and Time, The Doctor Falls. And 3 specials for good measure: Last Christmas, Husbands of River Song and Twice Upon a Time are all fabulous for me." Mike, that's some impressive rule bending there, and we'll allow all of it.
We'll totally allow it.
So
it's
you can have all
worth
of
bending
that.
the rules for him, I think. Can I just read one from Facebook, actually, was just because we've had quite a few on this one as well, actually. A lot of them do mirror the same kind of story, so I'm not going to read those out, but we've got a couple of other ones here. Was it Chris Tal Holmes says, "Eaters of Light is my favourite, but love all the episodes of Bill. Series 10 is one of my top faves. Loved Capaldi instantly with his classic vibe." Yeah, he's got that pertwee, like bouffant kind of style, isn't he? Very
his hair grew and grew and grew.
It did. Yeah, gets more bouffant as we go. And then also, again, we've got a few more, but I'll read this one as well, which is from John Cole on our Facebook page, who says also Jacob Dudman does a brilliant job as the 12th and 11th for Big Finish. Those are worth checking out. And of course, I saw that as a brilliant opportunity to shamelessly plug our interview with Bav Palmer, who played
the Kira Sandstrom, the companion
in Time Jacks.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good plug-in.
Indeed.
So yes.
I'm on it, mate. Don't you worry. Oh yeah, I've got it all there. As usual. Wow.
So that's our Essential 12th Doctor. Eps.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. We'll do another one soon for 9 or 10 or maybe a classic Doctor. Before we go, I just want to say that we've had a number of DMs on Facebook and on Twitter as well, and some tweets in general, just to say from people that who found us recently and that they've really been enjoying the podcast and our general approach to things, and the fact that we quite like Doctor Who. So thank you, everyone. We sort of said this before as well, but
Definitely.
To get messages like that you know, Paul and I are just two nerds talking about something that we love, and Avatar as well, and
pretty much
you too sometimes.
We might get away without that.
So to have people, you know, send us stuff like that. It quite often we text each other, don't we, with screenshots. Have you seen this? And then we're like, oh wow, you know, it's just it probably sounds a bit cheesy, but it's just amazing, isn't it? You know, that
it is.
We're talking about
the fact anybody listens to me and you rambling about Doctor Who is always amazing. But the fact that people vibe with you know, with our general approach to things, which we like to think tries to maintain a sort of cheery optimism and hopefully a bit of positivity as well. We're not really we do critique.
Yeah, we do. But there's a big difference between you know, just doing that.
I like to think we're polite about it.
Yeah,
you know. I mean, obviously, I trashed Kill the Moon, but it's still one of my essential 12th Doctor stories.
Which I can't quite get my head around. But you know,
I'm a complex kind of guy.
Yes,
friend.
you are. We had a couple of people say that you know, they particularly liked the fact that we were kind of 13th Doctor fans, and that they'd felt a bit sort of excluded from the fandom.
Yeah, that was quite nice
for that, and you know, which was really nice to hear, and you know, also kind of, you know, made me a little bit.
It's a shame in a way, though, that some people do feel excluded.
You know, and I think that there's probably more people out there who, you know, like Who in general, but you know, perhaps particularly the 13th Doctor era, who stay silent, you know, about it. Just, you know, they don't kind of wade in on
fear
stuff.
of being pounced on.
Well, yeah, maybe
the louder.
You know, we've seen
people out there.
You know, to everyone who listens to us, and you know, old and new alike, and to the people who've, you know, done buy me a coffee donations for us. You know, that will help keep this going. You know, it's thank you. It's incredible. So hopefully, long may this continue.
Yeah,
because I got a
big thank you from me as well.
Yeah, I got to keep it going so I can talk about the next Avatar film.
Oh God, we got a third one of those. Do you know? No, I promise you. Right, this is what we're going to do, and you heard it here, listeners. Right, I'm going to watch Way the Water. Right, and we will do a podcast on it. And once we've done that podcast, we do not talk about it in the Doctor Who podcast ever again. That's the deal. Do you accept?
Me?
Yeah, sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah, all right,
I'll watch it. We'll do a podcast special on it.
The
We'll stick it out there.
If you don't like it, then I'm allowed to keep talking about it.
Mate, I'll just come out with whatever my opinion is. I might enjoy it. I might not like it. You never know.
Alita, which I think is right up your alley.
I'll do that one as well at some point.
Disgust me.
Honestly. Right. On that note, whilst Geoff and I take this offline and have it out with each other. Come on then, come on. Let's see how you get on then, yeah? Listeners, thanks so much for biding with us and in letting us indulge in our Essential 12th Doctor episodes. We hope you've enjoyed this show, and we hope that you've vibed with a few of our suggestions.
Slay.
See, I'm using that word now, vibed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's what the kids say, but I'm saying it.
Someone now,
yeah, probably. Oi, shut up. Behave. Anyway, thank you for listening, dear listeners, and for anyone watching us on YouTube, hi, please don't throw things, and we'll see you next time in whatever our next show is going to be. Be guaranteed it's going to be a lot of fun. That's for sure.
Let's go plan it.